In 1325, two Italian cities went to war over a bucket. Yes, an actual wooden bucket. And thousands of people fought, bled, and died for it. This is the bizarre story of the Bucket War. All right, you got me with the hook. Now set the scene and get us caught up. Back in the 14th century, the cities of Modena and Bologna were fierce rivals. Both were powerful, wealthy, and extremely proud. For decades, they'd been feuding over territory, politics, and who was the real top dog in northern Italy. But what finally set things off? Not land, not gold, not power. It was a bucket. Here's how it happened. One day, a group of Modenese soldiers sneaks into Bologna, raids the city well, and steals a large wooden bucket. Why? Nobody's completely sure. Maybe as a prank, maybe to humiliate Bologna. But this wasn't just any bucket. It was the communal water bucket, a symbol of the city's pride. And Bologna was furious. They demanded it back immediately. Modena refused. Instead, they proudly displayed it like a trophy. So here's where we pause. We need to figure out what's going on here. Because this is a story about more than just a stolen bucket. This is a story about identity. These weren't just two random Italian cities. These were two of the most important and influential cities in all of Europe. Their citizens took great pride in their culture, their economy, and yes, even their water bucket. In fact, this wasn't the first time these two cities had gone to war. They'd fought each other several times before over land and resources. But those conflicts were relatively small. Nothing compared to what was about to come. But before we get to the full story, let's talk about our sponsor, Audible. Audible is an amazing way to learn something new, stay entertained, and even get a little bit smarter, all while doing everyday activities. Like when I'm driving, working out, cooking, or just relaxing at home. Right now, Audible has an amazing deal for our listeners. You can get a free trial and one free book when you sign up. With so many best-selling books to choose from, you're bound to find something you'll love. I recently finished listening to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, which Audible just released as an audiobook. It's such an inspiring story. If you've never heard of him, David Goggins is an ultramarathon runner, ultra-distance cyclist, and triathlete. He's a retired Navy SEAL and former FBI hostage negotiator trainer. And he really believes that no matter how difficult life is, no matter how hard things get, you can always overcome anything. That's exactly what this book is about. And if you listen to it on Audible, you get to hear David narrate his own story. If you're like me and you like to listen to audiobooks while you work out, Audible has some unique features that make it perfect for working out. Audible's WhisperSync technology syncs your audiobook and your Audible app, so you can start listening on your phone and finish on your earbuds. Plus, if you ever miss a part you want to hit again, you can instantly rewind with one tap. You don't have to fumble with your phone. Again, to get this free trial and free book, visit the website below or click the link in the description box. Now, back to the video. In the early morning hours of November 1325, Bolognese soldiers crept through the streets of Modena. They approached the main gate undetected and snuck inside the city. Now, it's not clear who attacked whom first, but soon the streets of Modena were filled with the sounds of battle. Houses were destroyed, shops were ransacked, and both sides suffered heavy losses. But it was clear that the Bolognese army was stronger. The tide of the war seemed to be turning in their favor. But then, something unexpected happened. The Modenese army counterattacked. They drove the Bolognese soldiers back toward the city walls and forced them to retreat. Although both sides claimed victory that day, it was clear that neither army was strong enough to defeat the other. So they agreed to meet again the following day to finish the fight once and for all. On November 15th, 1325, the two armies met outside the city of Modena. Once again, both sides were eager for revenge. The Bolognese army was larger, more experienced, and better equipped, but the Modenese were fighting on their home turf. They knew the area well, and they used every advantage they could find. The battle was brutal, and neither side gave an inch. But slowly but surely, the Modenese began to gain the upper hand. Then disaster struck for Bologna. Their leader was killed in battle. Without a commander, the Bolognese army fell into chaos. The Modenese pressed their attack, and the Bolognese broke ranks and fled for their lives. Thousands of Bolognese soldiers were slaughtered. Many drowned in the nearby river Secchia, trying to escape. Those who survived the battle retreated to Bologna in shame. So, here's the thing. When the Bolognese soldiers fled, they didn't just run away empty-handed. Oh no! After defeating the Bolognese army, the Modenese soldiers stormed the nearby town of They pillaged the city and stole whatever they could carry. And guess what they stole? Yep, you guessed it! Another giant bucket. And not just any bucket, mind you, but the biggest, shiniest, most humiliating bucket the town had to offer. They paraded it through the streets of Modena, mocking their defeated rivals. And if that wasn't bad enough, they also desecrated the body of Bologna's dead leader, cutting off his head and hanging it from the tower of the Modenese cathedral to rub salt in the wound. The Modenese wanted to make sure that everyone knew who had won the war. Every year on the anniversary of the battle, they would ring the bells of the cathedral and remind the people of Bologna of their humiliating defeat. So, here's the ultimate insult. Not only did Modena keep the original bucket, they stole another bucket just to rub it in. Imagine losing thousands of soldiers and still not getting your bucket back. Needless to say, the Bolognese were furious, but they were too afraid to risk another battle. The Bucket War had been one of the bloodiest and most costly conflicts in Italian history. There were simply too many casualties to risk another war over a bucket. So what happened to the bucket? Did Bologna ever steal it back? Well, spoiler. Nope. Modena still has it. You can see it today, hanging in a museum as a proud symbol of their victory. Nearly 700 years later, it's still there. The bucket that caused a war. Here's the big question. Was it worth it? Was taking a bucket worth killing thousands of people? Probably not. But that's just the point. The Bucket War isn't just a silly footnote in history. It's a cautionary tale. It's a warning that sometimes wars aren't about land or power or money. Sometimes they're about pride. Sometimes they're about ego. Sometimes they're about nothing. But that doesn't make them any less real. It doesn't make them any less painful. Think about the soldiers who fought in the Bucket War. They put their lives on the line. They left their homes and families and marched into battle for a piece of wood that holds water. And in the end, what did they have to show for it? A broken city, a shattered economy, and a pile of dead bodies. Now imagine you're one of the soldiers. You're covered in dirt and sweat and blood. Your armor is heavy and your sword is dull, and you look around and you realize that everything you've fought for, everything you've sacrificed for, is not worth it. And that's the worst feeling in the world. And that's why 1325 will forever be remembered as the year thousands fought over a bucket. Wait, hold up. Before we go, I need to know your thoughts. Which bucket do you think is better? The big buck or the little buck? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time.